So each one of these entities keeps growing and changing, but we don't have the head at the department level that I see, to be able to really bring those all together and give true efficiency and reduce the number of, for instance, websites and information, sea of information, and no way to get to it. From a Lean Six Sigma perspective, if we move to enter the OBT, that would be fine for me. I believe that Lean Six Sigma and KM principles are, in many regards, synonymous. Next slide, please. All right. That's it for my briefing today. I'm going to look at questions I have on the prompter here, and any questions you might have out here in the audience. So go ahead and take your best shot. Oh, by the way, we've got somebody walking around with a microphone, so if you ask a question, please wait for the microphone because we are recording all this. That's great. Okay. This question is from Jay Brown at the Maneuver Center of Excellence. How are the FORSCOM Warfighter Forums linked up and integrated with the OEF Lessons Learned Forum? Soon to be. Good, thanks, Jay. The Army Lessons Learned Forum, OEF, OIF, and HOA, hopefully complimentary. What we do is we look for activities like activities with the Warfighter Forum, and the OEF Lessons Learned was one of those. When General Chasm came on board and said, well, actually it was the ISAF commander who came on board, and he said he wanted to have a functioning lessons learned activity that analyzed those lessons learned, passed that knowledge forward to him, the staff. He was looking for something different than what already existed. What came out of that was a directive, Army, CSA to TRADOC call and G35, DA G357 to come up with the OEF Lessons Learned Forum. When we saw the battle rhythm for that as a monthly geo-level exchange, quarterly brief to the ISAF commander on actually Afghanistan issues and concerns, as well as community purposes developing and Council of Colonels on a monthly basis, and the ALARAC that directed all that. Warfighter Forum essentially jumped on that and looked at call and provided and asked to be a part of that, and certainly told them we'd give them any support they needed. So these are combined efforts. In other words, a way from the ground level to be able to bring these things together. Hope I answered your question. Next question.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Pace. Maybe you could give us some insight into how the Warfighter Forum changes as we transition to the supply-based. I know you said decisions have not yet to be made, but from your perspective, what becomes irrelevant or less relevant, and what becomes more important as we move this model?
Right. Well, we're looking at several initiatives in that regard. We realize that we have an operational force that has basic skills that have essentially atrophied over the last 10 years. These are not my words. These are things we've looked at for a long time. And quite frankly, we at the FORSCOM, we want to make sure that those conduits that the Warfighter Forum currently have are geared towards that training and making sure that we have the resources to be able to continue that process. Some things like, for instance, IMCOM owns the BTCs, BCTCs. One of the things that we looked upon at the 18th Airborne Corps, even in 2007, was our ability to pass lessons learned through those conduits, perhaps, to get information to not only AC units, but RC units, as they are contributed to JRTC, CTC training, and try to make those events more meaningful and change them at will. I mean, we've got a lot of units who have to go through that process, and it's going to take a while. So the relevancy of the Warfighter Forum, certainly, we see that as being the same level, at least through the several years into that process. Does that answer your question? Yes?
I said that one of your objectives is to take lessons learned and affect the doctrine. And I was wondering what kind of methodologies and processes you have in place for filtering and really make that happen.
I'm sorry, did you say for?
Right, so when you have, I
Yeah.
understand that from this forum, you get a lot of information, a lot of good lessons learned, lessons that you like to learn, and we like to embed them into the new doctrine and training. So I was curious what kind of methodology you have in place to do that, or what kind of process. Do you have people who analyzes this, information that they place in the right place? What exactly are you doing?
That you're talking about for doctrinal change.
Right.
Okay. The Warfighter Forum does not develop pamphlets. The Warfighter Forum does not directly change doctrine. It's a collaborative effort, and really always has. So the process is through essentially the governance that we mentioned and the collaboration amongst the different ACOMs, FORSCOM, TRADE, and MC. So I don't have a process chart up there for you. Maybe I should.
I'm going to give you one.
But essentially that process is built into governance and the activities that I stated, the process action teams, the board, and the upper level 2-star and 4-star level. Now at the action officer level, the symposiums, for instance, a lot of those activities, a lot of those concerns and issues are rectified almost right there during the symposium. I mean, you've got a corps commander with TRADE CONE on board listening to the same activities, and essentially those lessons learned are passed instantaneously at those points.
Thank you.
You've got a question on the screen there, Craig.
Okay. This is from Soft T. This says, yes, we suggest we reach out to SOCOM naturally. One of the wayheads that we saw on the wayhead slide was to achieve better relationships with the joint community. What we have done is kept it from the FORSCOM perspective, is kept them tapped with the joint warfighting conference and those type of activities. And we followed, and we're actually using some of the activities that they have introduced to include the JIFCOMs, the CAM 101 course to their action officers as they come on board. So yes, Mr. Adams, we're certainly working in that regard, and we won't stop there. Yes, Mr. Dan.
Hey, Diane, I want to dovetail on your question. In terms of lessons learned and best practices, and Craig can attest to this as well as Andy back here and others involved in this Warfighter Forum or knowledge sharing environment, and that is this necessity to not look at lessons learned only in the context of that which needs to influence doctrine. Because at the end of the day, the real power that's going on in the Warfighter Forums and in the Army professional forums and all those venues is knowledge sharing happening all the time, whether it's a best practice, capital LL, or small LL, or expertise or experience, or just the exchanges that take place that help people do their jobs better. So Obviously there's a need for the big nuggets to be assessed, processed like Craig's talking about. Look at it to see if it needs to change something in doctrine or perhaps elsewhere in the WfF arena. But the real power, 98% of those exchanges are just folks learning from each other and performing better. And in that case, you don't want to get in the way of that occurring as fast as it occurs, under the premise that I'm going to take that knowledge and somehow process, alter something. And on that chart up there, when you look at the learning environment in the bottom right, those exchanges occur through all those nodes, and our job is to facilitate that. And as Craig so articulately presented his charts, we're trying to use that in a venue that supports warfighting. And then the professional development, leader development stuff that evolves from that through the Army professional forums that Colonel Mortensen leads, that's where this all comes together. So I get real antsy when people start trying to take lessons learned and treat them as something that's got to go through this rigorous process. People are moving out every day in minutes, helping somebody else. That's the real value.
Thanks, Pat. Good points. Yes, the BC, part of the challenge that General Campbell did see at the beginning, the inception of this program, was exactly that. Things were happening. It's a fluid battlefield, and you recognize that we really need to have some type of process, some type of conduit that we can come to grips with real-world, life-saving type of solutions to challenges immediately, and not wait for doctrine, not wait for it to be written up or taught on the podium and that sort of thing. But each individual unit would hear from its incoming and outgoing BCTs. And if you recall the R4Gen cycle, does everybody in this room understand the R4Gen cycle? I can remember when we started R4Gen, it was difficult to, the Army fourth generation cycle. It was difficult for a lot of people to kind of get their heads around because it wasn't linear. It was something with a lot of moving parts going on at the same time. Well, R4Gen will likely continue through supply-based operations. It'll just be a little bit different. The cycles will be similar, but what happens in a band-based operational environment, that those changes are happening so quickly that the power of a symposium like this comes out even more prevalent. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you had manned cells, I guess, at the core and the various units. I'm just curious where those personnel come from. Are they unit personnel with additional duties, or is it someone from FORSCOM that has some training to do this? I'm just curious how that piece fits into it.
Right. Each one of the ACOMs does their competences of manning a little bit different. In a Forces Command, we do have three 5-man cells in each one of the corps, and that's paid through OCO funds right now, and that will be we'll have to change that. That's why I alluded to the concept and so forth, because in a resource-constricted environment, we have to be as agile and knowledgeable about how to resource as we do. We have to achieve relevance in the areas of the conduits we use. So that's part of it. Another challenge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No more questions on the board? All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your short week in Tampa. For those of you heading back up to North Carolina, have a great trip, and hope you got some plywood left. Thank you.
What I'd like to do now is move right into some assessment of each of the sessions that we were asked to do. So we're going to bring some slides up here, and I'll talk to those. Can I have the microphone so I can see the slides? Hello. All right. Well, we've been asked to do is look at what accomplishments occurred at each of these sessions. And